Good afternoon. Welcome to Dialogue Radio for the week beginning Sunday the 5th of September. I'm John Peters Coleman.
And I'm Michaela Dennis. On the show today, white slavery and Bristol's use as a fortress to attack Wales. Julian Lee-Jones from the Temple Local History Group tells us more. We also have an appeal for all your old photos of train lines that were closed by Dr. Beeching in the 60s. We also have some mobile phone tips and an invite to hear the new choir in the city. Other items, we hear from Luca, you may have heard from a few weeks ago, from Bulgaria, talking about the communist era in his country and what it was like.
Malcolm Greaves reads also another chapter of Secrets and Lies by David Southwell. Tim Burrows is here to read us another poem, and not forgetting, of course, Jeff Sparks. He's got his What's On and the Song of the Week. Well, it's my pleasure to introduce two evangelicals from two different traditions. One was a Protestant and one Catholic. I'd like to welcome Simon and Bridget. Hello.
Hello.
Simon, you may have seen, he's got a bag around him that says Jesus is the answer, and he's got it on right now immediately. But we're here mainly sort of to chat about the difference between Protestant conversion and Catholic conversion, if you like, I guess, is one thing. Right. Simon, I understand you're more from a Protestant background.
Yeah, Anglican.
And
right.
you converted to what?
Born again. I got baptised as an adult. And
Bridget, you grew up as a Catholic in Ireland.
Yeah, I was brought up as a Catholic, and I've converted, if you like, to being a Christian.
Okay. So how long ago did you two sort of first meet each other?
Well, we met when we were asked to co-run a drop-in for the homeless about 9-10 years ago. It was quite good, actually, because we were asked to run this cafe to make money in a church hall, and a few customers came along and Bridget was sort of in charge. And then a couple of homeless people came in and Bridget wanted to give them free food, which we did. And then the word got around the street pretty quickly that there's free food, and they all came in and the customers paying dropped off, and it turned into a full drop-in instead of a shop.
Okay.
And it was very successful.
Brilliant. Okay. And did you become born again after the meeting, or were you already born again already?
No, about 10 years before each of us. Yeah.
Okay. So, Bridget, what was it like being brought up as a Christian in Ireland? How do you think it differs from being a Christian?
I think I more or less looked upon myself as a Catholic when I was being brought up in Ireland, and I didn't have any access to the Bible, and we were taking orders from Rome, really, which came through the Catechism, which was a book that they'd made themselves.
So a lot of people in Britain who, culturally at least, might have been brought up sort of Church of England without having thought much about it. I mean, what impression did it make upon you as a child, Catholicism? Because to English eyes, seem very orthodox and quite almost theatrical somehow.
Yes, but it was more or less something we were taught, but advised not to take too seriously.
So as it would have been in Latin, I imagine obviously you didn't understand.
Not a word, and it just sort of closed my ears. And
did the adults actually understand it?
No one seemed to understand what was going on. We just went to church like we went to school, and we did everything else. We did our shopping, we just went to church, got seen, went home.
You told me, Bridget, that you spent half an hour in the church praying, and the teacher came in and said you were...
Yeah, she said you mustn't spend so much time in the church because we come in for 3 minutes and then we go, so you must do the same. So it was a case of you couldn't be seen to be talking to God or praying to him outside that Latin thing.
Seems quite strange.
Yeah, it was very strange, because she said you'll be looked upon as a religious freak, so you must just do as we are doing, follow us, and everything will be fine. But of course I couldn't.
Okay. What were your fellow children, your fellow friends and sort of things like that?
Well, we were very isolated because it was very class distinction all around.
Okay, so whereabouts in Ireland did you grow up?
Southern Ireland, County Westmeath.
So did you often find did you have conversations with your friends at school where...
Not very much, because we weren't really encouraged to have much conversation. It was sort of... We had Gaelic, sometimes we had to speak just all Gaelic, sometimes English, and we weren't encouraged to have any sort of one-to-one.
Well, that seemed quite strange. What do you make of that? Why do you think they were like that?
Well, I think we weren't allowed to discuss things like the Bible or what was in it or anything. It was more or less games, and everyone was like a bunch of people. There was no such thing as a one-to-one or anyone being isolated or sort of, we just followed what we were told to do.
Okay, and when did you come to Britain?
1964.
Okay. And when did you suddenly realise that a lot of people over here, say Church of England or other backgrounds, suddenly probably knew an awful lot more than you did, despite the fact that you had a relationship you felt was gone for a long time?
Yeah, I felt that there was a book called the Bible, which I'd never seen, and I wasn't encouraged in Ireland to ever look at, unless I want to end up in a mental hospital or something. That's what I was told. So I set out to find the book, and it took me a long time. Because
How do you mean it took a long time? What does it mean?
well, because I didn't know what I was looking for. I'd never heard the word Bible. I'd never heard the word Jew. I didn't know there was such a place as Israel and Jews. I didn't know anything. I knew that Jesus died on the cross for sinners, and that's about as much as I got.
Right.
Yeah, so the rest was all...
So why do you think they tried to limit access to information in such a way that is so alien to the evangelical tradition? Why?
Well, we were followers. We were followers of Rome.
Yeah.
We weren't encouraged to think for ourselves.
Okay, so the
Weren't-
hierarchical nature of it
Absolutely.
disrupts the message of it.
Yes, absolutely.
Okay, and Simon, what did you make of being born again? And did you feel that your two different backgrounds meant that you had a different understanding of being born again?
Not in the least. It's like we came together, two tributaries to a river, I suppose, and joined together, and we believe exactly the same. But as Bridget said, I can help Protestants and she can help Catholics a lot, because we know, each knows one side.
So Bridget, what sort of reaction did you get? Possibly, I suppose, you spoke to your family about this. They must have reacted to it, friends and family. What did they say?
Well, they were quite taken back at first. The Catholic Church had handed us down a religion which came through my forefathers, and so I was encouraged to stay with what I was handed down, although I had spent most of my childhood trying to break away from it. And I wasn't discouraged, because I thought, I've started looking into this, so I'm going to continue. And I felt I had to find out for myself, and I hadn't just got to take other people's cast-off religion or whatever. And so in reading the Bible, I found a deeper meaning to everything in life.
Okay.
And I found the Jews. I didn't know about them before.
Okay. What is these age brackets like for the average evangelical church? How many Jews do you have to come along
Well,
and experience it?
what we've done is evangelised the youth, street evangelism, in College Green especially. And over 3 years, it's sort of Gothics and teenagers down there, we had over 1,300 ask Jesus for a place in heaven. So it's phenomenal. We gave out tens of thousands of pieces of literature, and they were all taking it home with them and reading it, and it's a massive revival.
Okay, and do you have a weekly meet-up like a classic church?
No, we went down there. We were in the open air. We couldn't afford a building.
Okay.
Yeah, we did it like in the original Book of Acts.
Right. Okay. So how does it go in the original Book of Acts then? What is the sort of different? I mean, we usually
They met in the open air
Yeah.
before the churches. I mean, before churches were created by essentially Roman, and it was meeting in homes, house churches. And before that, they didn't even have that. Just met in the open air.
Okay. Do you meet a lot of people who are Catholic who had a similar situation to you? And what do you say to Catholics?
Yes. Well, I tried to lead them out the same way I was led, by telling them about the Bible and how they must search for themselves and not just take what's been passed down, and not to worry about the Latin and all that, because it's a case of just finding out for themselves what the truth is. And Jesus said, you shall know the truth, and the truth shall set you free. So that's what I went for, that's what I found. And so I tell them it's the same way out for you as it was for me, because if you stay in there, you'll never really know the full extent of what God has for you.
Okay. People might assume possibly that Ireland's a more religious place because they have a more heavily Catholic culture, but from what you've said, do you think England and Ireland are more or less religious than each other, or?
No, I think Ireland is steeped in the Catholic Church.
Yeah.
And you have to think about the Catholic Church every move you make.
Okay, so ironically that might mean that a lot of people, less people possibly might get the
Yes,
on it.
yeah, because you're just following a set of rules laid down by Rome, and you're not to go outside them, you're not to think for yourself, and you're just to follow what you're told.
Okay, if anybody by this interview has sort of been struck as curious and they want to know more, whereabouts can they find you? You're seeing as you don't have a...
Well, they can email us on britolundergroundchurch@yahoo.co.uk.